Phyllis Diller made millions of people laugh with her wild hair, loud laugh, and crazy jokes about her lazy husband, Fong. But behind all the laughter was a woman hiding many painful secrets. For over 30 years, she visited the same place every week, a place no fan knew about. Inside was someone she loved deeply, someone with an illness she could never talk about. When her visits stopped in 1993, her real heartbreak began. What she kept hidden explained why she never stopped working, even after she nearly died from a heart attack. Phyllis was born on July 17, 1917, in Lima, Ohio. Her father, Perry, was 55, and her mother, Frances, was 36, which was unusual for that time. Because of that, she grew up surrounded by older people and funerals. Instead of fearing death, she became oddly fascinated by it, something that later shaped her dark, witty humor. Though her family was Methodist and had German-Irish roots, Phyllis turned away from religion early on. She faced many struggles when she was young, but instead of becoming bitter, she turned her pain into humor. At Central High School, she loved making her classmates laugh, not knowing it was the beginning of a lifelong career. When the Great Depression hit in the 1930s, her family lost almost everything. She helped by selling newspapers, slowly building the toughness she'd need later in life. Her last name was originally Triber, changed generations earlier, something she didn't learn until she was an adult. Growing up lonely, she made up stories, and those stories turned into jokes. At just 10 years old, she was accepted into the Sherwood Music Conservatory in Chicago because of her amazing piano skills. By 1939, she was performing with orchestras. But she quit, not because she lacked talent, but because she thought she'd never be as good as her teachers. The Great Depression also forced her to leave after 3 years when her family ran out of money. She worked any job she could find to survive. Later, she realized quitting music was a blessing. It led her to something even better. In 1935, she studied music education at Bluffton College but dropped out in 1937 to get married. For years, she regretted leaving school and her dreams, but destiny had other plans. In 1940, she and her husband, Sherwood, moved to Michigan for his job at a bomber plant. Life was difficult. Their first child, Peter, was born that year, and money was tight. Living on $25 a week and dealing with the stress of new motherhood, Phyllis suffered from postpartum depression. Between 1940 and 1945, they moved 8 times before settling in California, where Sherwood found work at a naval station. Phyllis kept the family together through constant struggles. She listened to radio comedy while doing housework, which planted the idea that maybe she could do the same. In 1944, she gave birth to her second child, Sally, but Sherwood was often unemployed. To help, Phyllis worked as a newspaper editor, which later became one of her biggest strengths. In 1945, she gave birth to another son who tragically died 2 weeks later, possibly from premature birth. She was heartbroken. Soon after, she suffered a miscarriage. Over the next decade, she went through 6 pregnancies and raised 5 surviving children while living in poverty. Sherwood often refused jobs and wasted money, while Phyllis wrote small newspaper pieces for only a few dollars each. They survived on food stamps and powdered milk. But she didn't give up. She turned her pain into jokes about her husband and chaotic home life, material that would one day make her famous. By 1952, things were so bad they were evicted for not paying $300 in rent. That same year, Phyllis got a steady job as a radio copywriter in Oakland, earning $75 a week. It saved her family. She created a short radio segment called Phyllis Diller, the homely friend maker, making fun of household advice. The silly name gave her confidence. Her husband pushed her to try performing, so she did her first show at a veterans hospital. It was a disaster. She was heckled off stage. But she didn't stop. Her real break came on March 7, 1955, when she performed at the Purple Onion Club in San Francisco. The audience loved her. She wasn't glamorous like other women. She joked about her looks, her cooking, and her life. Her humor was fearless. That short gig turned into an 89-week run and launched her career. By 1956, she had built her unforgettable stage look: wild wigs, overdone makeup, strange clothes, and a long cigarette holder. Instead of trying to look beautiful, she made herself look ridiculous, and it worked. Her comedy booking shot up, and she started appearing on national TV. In 1958, she released her first comedy album, Like a Lampshade in a Whorehouse. Some stores refused to sell it, but it still sold over 50,000 copies. Her jokes about her fictional husband, Fong, were really about Sherwood. The album made her $10,000 and led to big TV opportunities. She eventually wrote over 1,000 jokes about Fong and became one of the first women to prove that female comedians could be just as bold and funny as men. By 1959, she was performing in over 150 venues a year, traveling across the country and earning $25,000 annually, 3 times more than before. She kept a steel cabinet with over 50,000 handwritten jokes organized by topic. Even when she was exhausted, she never stopped writing. In 1961, she appeared on The Jack Paar Show, and her life changed overnight. At 43 years old, a mother of 5, she became an instant star. She wasn't polished or young, but she was honest, funny, and completely herself. She turned her struggles into laughter, and audiences loved her for it. Soon, she was on The Ed Sullivan Show and inspired future comedians like Roseanne Barr. In 1966, she starred in her own sitcom, The Pruitts of Southampton, which was later renamed The Phyllis Diller Show. It only lasted 1 season and got bad ratings, but it earned her a Golden Globe nomination. She didn't care about failure, she just kept going. She even toured with Bob Hope to entertain soldiers during the Vietnam War. By the late 1960s, she became a regular on Hollywood Squares, appearing in 28 episodes. Her quick wit and self-deprecating humor made her unforgettable. When a garbage truck driver told her to jump right in, she turned it into one of her most famous punchlines. She proved that humor could be powerful, even when it came from pain. In 1968, she hosted The Beautiful Phyllis Diller Show on NBC. It lasted only 3 months but featured stars like Bob Hope and Goldie Hawn. Even though it failed, her fearless attitude made her an icon. Her wild look, big hair, and over-the-top style would later influence artists like Lady Gaga. She kept performing, even in Vietnam again that same year, and began acting in films. Though her movie career wasn't huge, she impressed critics with her acting in The Adding Machine, 1969. She later appeared in The Sunshine Boys, 1975, and took over the lead in Hello, Dolly! On Broadway. At 52, doing 8 shows a week, Phyllis Diller had gone from a struggling mother of 5 to one of the most unique, trailblazing women in comedy history. Phyllis Diller made people laugh all over the world with her wild hair, funny clothes, and crazy jokes about her lazy husband, Fong. But behind her big laugh was a woman carrying deep pain and secrets. Her husband, Sherwood, had been diagnosed with mental illness in the 1950s and left her to raise 5 kids alone. She worked every night to pay the bills, never letting the world see how hard life really was. In 1976, she joined The Gong Show, laughing through the chaos, and later appeared on shows like Match Game PM, The Muppet Show, and The Love Boat. By the end of the 1970s, she had acted in over 40 films and even earned more than Bob Hope in one of their movies. Her comedy album Born to Sing came out in 1968. It wasn't meant to be serious, she made fun of her singing voice, turning her off-key songs into jokes people loved. No one knew she recorded it while her personal life was falling apart. Her marriage had ended, money was tight, and one of her daughters, Sally, had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. Phyllis visited her every week for decades but never told the public. On stage, she smiled. At home, she carried silent heartbreak. In 1972, she voiced herself in the Scooby-Doo movies, joking about psychic readings. Her colorful style and honesty made her a favorite in the gay community. She released more than 10 comedy albums in her career, each filled with humor and truth. In the 1990s, she began working in animated films. She played the Mouse Queen in The Nutcracker Prince in 1990 and voiced a character in A Bug's Life in 1998, which became a huge success. But during those same years, her daughter Sally was still institutionalized, and her son Peter was battling cancer. When he died in 1998, Phyllis kept performing, hiding her grief behind her famous laugh. She made history in 1984 by creating a home video about plastic surgery, something nobody had ever done. It was called Phyllis Diller's Home Video Guide to Plastic Surgery and cost $39.95. In it, she talked about her facelifts and nose job and joked about her cheap surgeon. But her honesty was groundbreaking. She made people feel okay to admit they had surgery and even won an award for it. She proudly called herself the Queen of Plastic Surgery, and many stars, including Joan Rivers, followed her lead. At 68, she turned her signature look into a business by launching a line of wigs and clothes inspired by her stage outfits. The wigs sold well, and her style influenced drag performers and fans who saw her as more than a comedian. She was a symbol of confidence. In 1996, at 79, she appeared on The Bold and the Beautiful as a colorful makeup artist named Gladys Pope. People loved her performance, even though she was struggling with serious health problems. Her heart had stopped in 1997, and by 1999 she needed a pacemaker, but she kept working. That same year, she did her final stand-up special, Still Out for a Laugh. She was 81, her voice was weak, and her jokes about aging hit home. She had just lost her son Peter, but still performed, refusing to show her pain. Phyllis's love life was full of heartbreak too. She married Sherwood Diller in 1939, not knowing she'd spend 26 years pretending everything was fine. He suffered from mental illness, refused steady work, and left her to raise their children. Behind her jokes about Fong, she was hiding years of poverty, gambling losses, and emotional abuse. They divorced in 1965, and just a month later, she married actor Ward Donovan. That marriage fell apart within months due to his drinking and affairs. She filed for divorce after 3 months, though it wasn't finalized until 1975. In 1985, she met Robert Hastings, a kind man who became her partner for over 10 years. They never married but lived happily together until he died of cancer in 1996. She called him the love of her life and never remarried after his death. Her biggest heartbreak came from her children. Her daughter Sally, born in 1944, developed schizophrenia in the 1950s. After years of trying to care for her at home, Phyllis made the painful decision to place her in an institution around 1960. She never spoke about it publicly. Sally died in 1993 at 49. Then, in 1998, her son Peter died of cancer, and in 2002, her daughter Stephanie died of a stroke at just 54. Earlier in her life, she had lost a newborn baby and suffered a miscarriage. By the time Phyllis died in 2012, she had outlived 4 of her 6 children. Her youngest son, Harry, who had dyslexia, later became successful in business and managed her career. He stayed by her side through it all. In her early years, life had been hard. In the 1950s, she lived in a trailer park with 5 kids and barely enough money for rent. She practiced her comedy in laundromats before finally getting her big break in 1955 at the Purple Onion in San Francisco. She performed there for 89 weeks straight. It was desperation that pushed her on stage, not dreams of fame. In the 1970s, after 2 divorces, she was nearly bankrupt. She worked endlessly, sometimes doing 200 shows a year. Her jokes about Fong made audiences laugh, but behind them, she was fighting financial ruin. In 1979, she won a $5 million lawsuit over music rights that finally gave her financial stability. Starting in 1972, Phyllis began getting plastic surgery, eventually having 15 procedures. Her first facelift nearly killed her, leaving her temporarily paralyzed, but she joked about it later. She had her nose reshaped, eyes lifted, cheeks filled, and even tattooed eyeliner. She once said that no 2 parts of her body were the same age anymore. These surgeries weren't just vanity, they were her way of coping with pain and rebuilding confidence. At 64, she wrote The Joys of Aging and How to Avoid Them in 1981, turning the fear of growing old into laughter. The book sold well, showing that even off stage, she could make people smile. In her later years, she discovered painting and turned her home into a mini art gallery. She painted bright, emotional works and sold some for thousands of dollars. Even after a back fracture in 2007 and heart problems that nearly killed her, she never stopped creating. Her last public appearance was on May 15, 2012, when she received a Lifetime Achievement Award in Lima, Ohio. She was frail but smiling. Phyllis Diller died peacefully in her sleep on August 20, 2012, at her Brentwood home. She was 95. Her ashes were scattered at sea. She had lived a life filled with laughter, heartbreak, loss, and strength. Beneath the makeup and the jokes was a woman who never gave up, no matter how much pain she carried. Through her honesty, courage, and humor, she made it okay to be loud, funny, and imperfect, and she turned her own heartbreak into laughter for the world.